But the biggest media story around the country, and frankly, it's affected us here in ways that surprised me. And to a certain degree, Chad, is very good news because people were really worried that we were being eliminated or taken off the air or something. The headline is that CBS News Radio is going to end in about 2 months. CBS News, the TV side, 6% layoffs, probably 60 people will be laid off. I'm sure we'll learn some big-name correspondents, along with behind-the-scenes people lose their jobs. In this sort of ongoing strife we've seen in the media world, let's talk first about CBS News Radio, right, Chad? Because this right now is evidence of what you're talking about, that my show started at 3:08 after 3 minutes from CBS News, 3 minutes from Laura, traffic to weather. We would love to get going a little earlier. At the same time, like that bong, that chime and the legacy, it's also like part of what people kind of expect out of a news talk radio station like us.
For sure, especially the folks who've been listening to CCO for multiple decades, right? They grew up going with traditional media outlets, Jason, the Star Tribune, the Pioneer Press, WCCO TV, and for a long time, WCCO Radio was the dominant radio station in town. We still believe in a lot of what we do, but look at all the competition in radio. Look at all the competition for news. I can look at my phone right here and get news instantly. So nobody, and the two of us think about this every day, nobody is trying to say to 60, 70, to 80-year-olds, we don't care about you.
Right.
Because we want as many people as possible.
For sure.
But for the continued vitality of this station to try to convince more people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, hey, you know what Jason's doing? That's worth a listen. You know what Chad's doing? It's worth a listen. And the compelling part for some is I know that bong, I know the news, but for a lot of people, they get the news well ahead of CBS, and whether Jason drives them nuts or they love Jason, Jason is the draw. And so if Jason is off the radio traditionally for 11, 12 minutes, have I really missed out? Am I going to see what Barrero's doing? Am I going to see what a podcast is doing?
Right.
Am I going to give up? We have to wrestle with that, and I think it's too long. I've made this point for years. I don't want to see anybody lose their job, but that's just too long without the shows, which are still the number one basis why people listen.
Now, some of this we don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to be honest. I don't think anybody in our company knew that this was coming. So
I don't think so.
They have to announce it. CBS had to announce it because, we have a partnership with CBS. What's going to happen to that? I don't know. There's no radio division. Will we still have a connection to CBS? I don't know. Will we get another company to do news at the top of the hour, national news? Will we ask our newsroom to do this? Texters are saying, I definitely value it. And I wonder, what do you guys want? Because on my phone, the easiest thing for me to get is national and international news updates. You get the
sure.
Apple News alerts, the CNN. I get this all the time. Do I turn to CBS Radio News to find out what's going on around the world? I'm not going to lie. No, I don't. Is it useful if you're in the car and there's breaking news on a national level?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yes. I see the value in that. For me, the hourly update, take it or leave it. You know what I mean?
Well, I like this picture you've put up too from it's just I'm like Pete Hegseth. I hate that picture. I wish we'd take that picture down.
You don't like that one?
It's funny.
We are streaming on YouTube. I'm doing my part to try to bring us into the modern era here.
Yeah. Okay, let's go there. You know where I stand. This is to Gons. This is to Brad. It's asinine that we don't have high-level cameras in that studio. I would use them. Bravo to you for doing that. So that's one thing. For me, among my pet peeves at our radio station, Okay, I'll just be really honest. On breaking news, when shows get to a story that's 3-4 days old, I want to hit my head against the table and think, you know what our competitors are? The podcasts, the other stations, they're getting to it right away. We have to get to stories right away. And there's just certain traditional media, if that's your only calling card for news, I think you're missing out. I think you're missing out on the options. And so I'm going to ask you this, as somebody still newer to this business, okay? And I touched on this last hour. Do you think, and again, let's just be honest, AM radio is in a harder position right now than FM, but let me be clear about this, crystal clear on this. If you don't have the horses on the radio station, doesn't matter. You can be FM, and if you just have mediocre on-air people, it's not going to succeed.
It's
if,
not
if
only
you have
about
the better
signal.
people. If you have really talented people, you're going to pick FM every time, but you better have. Do you think today, when we're trying to appeal to a cross-section of listeners, Jason, can you be both? Can you be a news station with 3 minutes of news, 3 minutes of local news, traffic and weather, and then also have Jason DeRusha, whether it's serious, whether it's funny, whether it's silly, but strong viewpoints? Can you combine all of that into a listening experience now? Because I think it's a lot harder.
It's very difficult. If you look around the country, how many general interest news talk stations are there? And there's fewer than 10, I think, where you have political talk, you have all news, and then you have a couple like us who are trying to say, like, yeah, we're going to talk about politics, but we're going to talk about other stuff. And, you know, let's be honest about the economics about this business. Part of the cost that this station carries is that we have a newsroom. We have people who work here. You know what I mean? So you look at that whole group of journalists who are anchoring the news, like Susie and Steve and Laura and Ari and Taylor and Mark. That's a lot of salaries. And you say,
it is.
For the economics of it, I love that we have our own reporters. But if I were running this place, you're like, does it make sense? I think it's part of our point of difference that we have local reporters. But if you were trying to figure out, I don't know, maybe I'd try to do one all news station, one all talk.
Okay, well, let's be totally honest about this. You're well aware of this. I have wanted us, a version of this radio station, to switch to an FM signal. Once, honestly, I felt like, I'll just be really, really honest here and probably piss off some people who used to have host shows. Once we had a better product. I think we've got a pretty good product right now. And now, if we went to FM, I would not take any news element at all. No news at the top, no local news. It would be your show, my show, whatever other shows, and then turn WCCO Radio into a news wheel. That's what I would do. I really would do that. I would. So for the news junkies,
right,
and our news department would stay there. You would still have that. But then I hate saying hot talk because then it sounds like phony opinions. But a little bit, in particular, what our shows do have that. And I know there's going to be pushback. Oh, liberal this, liberal that. First of all, you're just wrong if you think Jason and I are both lefties. We're just not. We're more centrist by far. It's just Donald Trump has caused a reaction from hosts like us and others for our country to be more divided. And bravo to him. It's worked.
Yeah.
But that's where I think, like, CCO could go a lot of ways. CCO could just embrace the older demographic and just dive right all into that, okay? That's not what I want. That's not what you want. And that doesn't mean we're trying to turn those folks away, but trying to convince people that the cliche of, oh, my parents listen to it, and so, but I would never. Listen to Jason's show on a regular basis. And if you think that's a 60 to 70 to 80-year-old show, you're just wrong. We just have to convince more people to listen to it.
texters coming in with thoughts on the news radio, and part of the hourly news is tradition.
Yes.
I definitely learned this working in local TV, that the hardest thing to overcome is habit, people's habit. So if you're used to, when it's 3 o'clock, you hear that chime, you hear that song, and you hear somebody from CBS News, right? And a texter says, as a longtime listener to CCO, I want CCO to stay the fabulous radio station with great people working there. We just want you to stay there forever. And so it is about the local people. I don't know. I'll be honest. I think you could cut out the national news and just do a local news update. And would the casual listener really notice the difference? I don't know. Do you think?
I think there is a hardcore loyal element, and let me just say this too. Thank you very much for all this.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Who doesn't
We'd be toast without him.
Doesn't want anything disrupted here. They're reflected in that text. We talked about this a little bit at the end of my show. I think we need some connection to national news, okay? If next week, as an example, let's say it's Tuesday, and there is a violent attack in the Strait of Hormuz, to say to Laura when she's covering all the local stories that she now has to break that down and track down a national guest along with covering what else is happening in town, that's a lot. That's why I'm inclined, just because we want that element to have, if necessary, 1 minute of national news. So we have that connection. And then, to be honest, there are local days where the news needs maybe more than 2 minutes.
Yeah,
maybe
true.
Needs 4. But we're all friends with those folks. We're all friends, and we listen as much as Eddie. There are days when by the time it gets to a minute and a half and Laura or Susie or Ari's going to, and you're like, come on, let's just get to the show. I mean, we're getting the airport update for the 97th time. Let's get back to the show.
Texture says, when there's so much criticism and skepticism of news on social media, it is refreshing to hear objective CBS News. There is something to that. There is something to that where it gives us, it does let you know that we're not just the same as every other sort of hot take podcast or nonstop political talk, you know?
That's fair.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, traditional folks want to have some of those core fundamental news outlets that have been here forever. But let's also acknowledge, from Rush Limbaugh to Sean Hannity to what Jason Lewis did in town and Fox News, conservatives forever have felt their voice wasn't heard on those elements. That no longer exists because of the domination of Fox News, the endless conservative outlets. Bravo to them because of their success. So anybody says conservative voices are not heard anymore, you have to try really, really hard to not find those, because they're successful all over the country.
Jason points out, in fairness, there are a million sources for breaking news and regular news updates. Like most people, I listen to WCCO for the original content, like Drive Time, like Chad, that I don't get elsewhere. Yeah, I think that is the bottom line. Can I just put this picture of you up one more time on YouTube? It's so
go ahead. You can put up any.
You look so good, Chad Hartman. Honestly, like a little bit of a baby. You know, I mean, pretty hot.
Not really.
Pretty
I looked
hot.
ridiculous in that picture.
I don't know.
It was. I trust me. I know what was going on that day. It was not a good day. That was one of the fakest smiles ever, and it just.
Look at the hair, though. Oh, just
okay. Calm down.
All right, sorry.
Come on out here. Jump in the pool with me.
This is not. See, this is not Grandpa's CCO. I mean, who would allow that sort of commentary? That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, there might have been somebody out here who might have said recently, listen, I got to go to a female doctor. You know, the boobs looked at, the vagina looked at. I said, I don't think that's a doctor. I call that Tinder.
Right. Yeah. That's a good Friday
Just want to
night.
show you it's not Grandpa's radio station.
Friday night on the apps is what that is. Yeah, absolutely. Chad, thank you for sticking around a bit. I appreciate it. There he is.
All right, man. Be good.
Chad Hartman. He got most of his show off because of the Twins. who in Minnesota Twins fashion had the tying run picked off of second base, ending this spring training game. Home opener is 2 weeks from today, and their big opener is
season
6 days away.
Yeah,
right?
1 week from yesterday. Yeah.
All of it right here on the home of the Twins. We're going to break. Lots of texts coming in. Welcome your texts. We're sort of just part of what I wanted to do is let you guys know that we're not going anywhere. WCCO Radio not going off the air. That is CBS Radio, the national on-the-hour news update and news organization that is shutting down.